Good evening. Mayor Stewart is just on his way, but we decided we're going to get started with the council meeting, and Mayor Stewart will take his seat just as he arrives. So, City Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first item this evening is a presentation. I'd like to invite Melissa Burdock and the students from Maple Creek Middle School to come forward. They're here to speak about Real Acts of Caring Week.
Great. Please come forward.
Hi, I'm Allison.
I'm Carly.
I'm Ashley.
I'm Kimia.
I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Gina. And we are grade 8 students from Maple Creek here to talk to you about Real Acts of Caring, or RAC. We would like to see RAC spread across our community.
Students in the Coquitlam School District are celebrating Real Acts of Caring, RAC, Week once again during the week of February 10th to 16th, 2013 of this year. We are asking the City Council to possibly pass a proclamation to recognize RAC Week and for the residents in the Tri-Cities to celebrate RAC Week too.
What is Real Acts of Caring? Real Acts of Caring is about doing something kind and caring for another and not expecting anything back in return. It's about making a positive difference for another, about helping somebody if they need it, and about making our world a better place.
This is the 8th year that students in the Coquitlam School District have been involved in spreading caring and kindness in Tri-Cities in British Columbia in February. Students have been lobbying with the local and provincial government since 2006.
We would like to share with you some of our real acts of caring that we have been doing to give you some ideas.
In grade 6, my class went on a Real Acts of Caring field trip where they just went and racked everyone. I wasn't able to go because I was skiing, and so I decided to go rack the people on the mountain while I was skiing. It made me feel really happy because they were all surprised and they were all happy.
In grade 6, my class and I put together some money that we made on our own, and we put it onto a Starbucks gift card. We walked to a nearby Starbucks, and with our gift card we bought people their drinks for them. And everyone was very surprised but grateful, and it made us all feel really good because they were all happy.
During the Christmas time, my family and I bought Christmas decorations for the outside of our church, and the little kids were really excited, so it made my family feel really good.
In the summer, at the line in the grocery store, there was this woman in front of me, and she was $2 short for her groceries, so me and my cousin decided to rack her, and we gave her the toonie that she needed, and it made us both feel really good because she was really happy.
My class and I went to the SPCA and gave the dogs and cats some toys, and we gave everyone who worked their cookies. It made me feel good because everyone was surprised and happy.
Last year, the students from Nestor Elementary School came to our school, and we handed out cookies to different classes in our school, and it made me happy because at first I thought it'd be boring, but then the kids were having fun. It was actually really fun to go around the school with them, and the students who got the cookies were happy, so it was a lot of fun. Going out of our way to be caring and kind to an absolute stranger is sometimes described as stranger weird. We would like to challenge this belief and ask you to try doing a real act of caring. Maybe you'll agree with us that it doesn't have to be weird or unusual. It needs to become a normal practice, and this would make our community an even better place. And it's actually really quite fun. We would like to show you an example of rack.
Oh no. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, these are cookies, are they?
No. They look like it.
Very good.
Thank you. I have one too.
No. Staff don't get any.
Yeah, I'll disobey the mayor for that one.
Well, thank you. My deep apologies for being a few minutes late at other events, but this is my favorite presentation of the year as RAC, and it's absolutely great to have you here. And thank you so much for presenting and reminding us all about the value of kindness. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Actually, our media table could use some cookies.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. And don't forget the camera guy in the back. And I've got Councillor, actually, before you sit down, I think Councillor O'Neill's got something he wants to add.
Yes, I just wanted to say at the beginning of your presentation, you did say you were asking Council to pass a declaration or a proclamation or something about in support of real acts of caring. I just want to let you know that we're not ignoring that suggestion. It's just that Council has a policy that we don't pass declarations or proclamations of any sort. But that does not mean that anyone on Council here is opposed to the message you're bringing. To make acts of caring normal and part of everyday life, I think, is an ultimately extremely worthy goal, and I thank you for that. Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you very much for Councillor O'Neill for that. Really appreciate your coming out tonight for your message. Thank you. Okay, try to top that, anyone. Like these next people, for example. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. Item 2 is our second presentation. I'd like to invite Amanda Farrell to come forward. She's here to speak about the Evergreen Line Rapid Transit Project and provide an update.
Well, thank you very much for having us this evening. I'm sorry that we haven't come with any cookies. I would like to introduce my team that I've arrived with. We've got Jennifer Locke and Jodie Dean, who are project managers, and Angela McKenzie, who's our community relations manager. And we're here this evening to give you an update on the Evergreen Line and answer any questions that you might have. Here we are. So what we wanted to go over with you this evening were some key project milestones, our traffic management policy, community relations, and then talk about any questions you might have. So we've marked a number of key milestones over the past months, and you will remember that we started our early works construction in early 2012 to lay this groundwork for the start of major construction. Our early works included transmission line relocation, BC Hydro pole installation at Coma Lake and Clark Road in Coquitlam. That work is complete. We've been working on widening North Road and also installing and relocating a number of utilities there, and that work is also complete. We've been working to prepare for the relocation of CPR and railway tracks in Port Moody, and that work is underway. And we've also been doing some power supply work in both Port Moody and Coquitlam, some of which is complete and some of which is still underway. About 80% of our early works projects are now either complete or well underway, and our final contract for early works was awarded in December 2012. Also, since our last presentation to Council, we have announced the addition of the Lincoln Station as an opening day station for the Evergreen line. So we will have 7 stations on opening day. That's 6 new stations and an expansion of the Lougheed station. So we've also recently announced that we have awarded the main contract for the construction of the project. That is to design, build and finance the main construction works. That work has been awarded to EGRT Construction, which is a consortium led by SNC-Lavalin. And it's an $889 million contract for the project. EGRT Construction will build the elevated and at-grade guideway, the tunnel, the 7 stations. They will build the power substations and the systems required for the project. They'll also build a vehicle storage facility. In addition to the primary contract for the project, we've also signed a contract with Bombardier Transportation to supply 28 new SkyTrain cars for the line. And those cars will be able to work on not only the Evergreen line, but the entire SkyTrain system. And once, I think you know that once the project has been constructed, it will be operated by TransLink. I put on the slide here the logo of EGRT Construction. That's a logo I think you're going to be seeing a fair amount of over the coming months and years. So the main construction is going to start this month. You'll start by seeing activity beginning to build the North Tunnel Portal in Port Moody. EGRT has set up a site office next to the old Andres Wine site in Port Moody, and utility relocations are scheduled to start a bit later this month. In Coquitlam, you're going to be seeing activity starting in the Coquitlam area. There is some work going to happen imminently, but that's not EGRT Construction. EGRT Construction will be starting there around the spring. We will have more information for you in the coming weeks around the construction and the construction scheduling. The primary contractor is currently putting their schedule together, and we will have that, and we will be providing communities with more information. We're also planning a number of community relations meetings to keep residents and businesses informed, and this will be a key priority for me and my team in the coming months. I think we've talked to you before about traffic management, and traffic management is certainly a key priority for the Evergreen Line project. And we have certainly been putting an emphasis on this also during the advance works. Residents, motorists and businesses are notified in advance of delays or changes to traffic patterns, and we have a toll-free traffic information line and weekly information bulletins available to the public. Our goal is to provide clear, consistent and reliable traffic and construction information. As I mentioned, the Evergreen Line team, our team here, will oversee the work of the contractor and will work hand in hand with the contractor regarding traffic management. We take traffic management very seriously, and our contract includes a number of measures, performance measures, that allow us to enforce the performance that we require. A very comprehensive community relations progress is in place and will continue throughout construction. Again, another key part of our project. Our community relations team will continue to work with residents, businesses and motorists and communities to provide current information throughout the construction. The outreach that our team has done to date has been recognised by businesses and the communities for quickly responding and providing valuable information. We also we will be working with our business liaison committees in Coquitlam, Port Moody and along Pine Tree, again to inform businesses of what's about to unfold in terms of construction and to address any concerns. So we have a range of ways to get information out, both through the project office, through our community relations meetings, business liaison committees, door-to-door visits, our phone line, and email and social media updates. So I'd like to certainly thank Maurice and his team. We're working very, very closely with staff at the City of Coquitlam on a daily basis, weekly basis, and that we will be doing that as we move on through the project. And I'd be very happy to either answer any questions you have myself or ask my team here if you have more specific details to step up and help answer questions.
Thank you very much. We've got questions from two members of Council so far. Councillor Asmundson.
Well, thank you for your presentation. It's great to see that we're getting started with the construction, the contractor awarded, and the pre-work. My concerns are around the social impacts of the construction of the project and some of the issues that have already been going on that I've brought to my staff, but I'll bring it to your attention, is that take North Road south of Cameron to Austin. We had a lane blocked off for weeks on end with sometimes no work going on for days in there. There's no need for that. Sometimes you look at contractors don't want to spend the money to put down and take up cones, but it creates an impact on traffic, creates an impact on the people in the area that's unnecessary. That's one example that I brought to my staff's attention to talk to you guys about. With your contractors, that they're going to be blocking off lanes for them when they're doing their work, but when they're not there, just know that those cones were left up week after week and days. I drive past there all the time with nobody working within them. So that's the one issue I'd like you to be aware of. And if contractors are in there when they're working, put them up. I mean, if it's unsafe to have it open for the road work or whatever, fine. But if the road was in good travel for over a week or more when it was still blocked off. So those are some of the issues. Also would like to look at the work. We had some issues one day at Austin and North Road doing work within the intersection at around 12:30 in the afternoon, blocking up the intersection. Are those things necessary during the daytime? Can be done in better times of hours? These are some of the things I'm looking at with the impacts, because it will have impacts. And I understand, I thank you for the information you're putting out here, but I think we have to be more keenly aware of how we can minimize those impacts, especially working with your contractors on site to mitigate those issues.
And thank you for your feedback. We absolutely agree that our goal is to minimize those issues. I think our contractor on North Road has been very keen to work with those businesses, and I don't know, Jennifer, if you want to say anything about that specific issue. Yeah. Do you want to come down? Jennifer is the project manager for that piece of the work, actually, on North Road. But I think my overall message is we want you to bring that forward to us. We will work with you to do whatever we can to minimise that, and if there's a better time of the day and we can work around that, we will certainly do that. Do you want to just mention?
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Locke. I'm the project manager on the North Road project, and we did get that question came through to us through your staff about the lane being blocked. The reason it was blocked is because it was unsafe. The line painting hadn't been completed yet, and the traffic signals timing hadn't been implemented yet either. So we were working with the weather at the time and the contractors. So we did it. They're open because the line painting occurred and because the traffic signals occurred as well.
Well, I drive that route. I'm a bus driver for transit. I go through there, and the lines were painted and the cones were still up. Okay, so and the road had been, the sidewalk had been in, the trees were in, and had been blocked off for days. Those are the type of things that. And even the cones, there's a lot of days there where that road, even with the line, could have been opened up, even with temporary markings, temporary stuff. Those type of things really need to be looked after, worked on, intersection work. Mm-hmm. I go by there all the time. And for myself and our public, taking transit, getting delayed, getting backed up, because there's horrible backups when you're taking that down to those two lanes and working in intersections. So it's just something that you have to be, I would say, more diligent at.
Yes.
And really realizing that there's no safety hazards like potholes or anything else, but if you can put temporary little cat's eyes down or whatever to mark the lane, or we have, on the low heat, we had temporary little white line paint markings to open things up. And you can put the ones that don't even tape, you can have the ones that are like a tape that goes down, right? Mm-hmm. So there's lots of ways around it, but we need to be able to, when there's no work going on, to make sure that the traffic flows.
Agreed. Yes.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And of course, this is going to be a long construction project, and it's just beginning.
Absolutely.
Councillor O'Neill.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that's a real milestone. I think it's cause for celebration that we've got the company named, the consortium that's going to design, build, and finance this long awaited. So it's great news you're bringing. Of course, we've read it in the media and everything like that. So we've named this big company now. But what we haven't named yet, and I think this might be a TransLink thing, but maybe you've heard something, and if you have, I'd like you to share. Do we know what the stations are going to be called yet? And do we actually know if the Evergreen line name is going to stick, or is it going to have to change? Because this line is now going to be merged as one continuous line with the Millennium line. So I would like to know when we're going to hear about that, because it's important, I think, to start getting that in the public's mind, and so we can start referring to it. I'd hate to go another year or two calling it the Evergreen line, and then, oh, now it's the Evergreen Millennium line or something, or now it's something totally new, and also the names of the stations. It'd be good for local businesses, for people moving in to know as soon as they can what those stations are going to be called as well. So what have you heard?
Wow. On the station names, what I can tell you is TransLink has, I think, talked to the municipalities and has finalised the station names and expects to announce those shortly.
Okay.
So I can't tell you what the names are today, but I can tell you that in the coming few weeks.
Do you know the names?
I do.
Oh, okay. Would you like a cookie?
Would you like? Yes. Yes. The next station is Terry O'Neill.
No, I wasn't thinking that. Just a newsman like the scoop, that's all.
So with respect to the name of the line, it's the Evergreen line through construction. It is an issue which TransLink will be operating the line that they have. Obviously it's their call as to the overall, how they operate the overall system. All I would say is everybody knows what the Evergreen line is. I think that there'll be a lot of people who would be sorry to see that line name changed, but ultimately that's a matter for TransLink. So I can certainly take that away and talk to my colleagues at TransLink and write to you after this and
Thank you.
Let them know your question.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. We're beginning an exciting time that we've waited 20 years for. And on behalf of Council, I wish, well, 25, you're right, 25 years. Councillor Sikora, who was mayor at the time we first talked about this, reminds me that it was much more than 25 years. But we look forward to this excitement. And we also, on behalf of Council, urge you to make sure that there are never any cones that don't belong there and all that stuff.
Well, we will be doing our very best to make sure that doesn't happen.
I'm sure
Thank you again for working with us, and we look forward to working with you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you for the update. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Worship. We have before moving on to item 3, we do have let's say a third presentation that is not in the agenda before you, but this is a recognition of an award that has been received by the city, and more specifically our Financial Services Division. And I'd like to invite Ms. Sheena McLeod to come forward, and I believe that the Mayor has some words to give.
Ms. McLeod. You probably know nothing about this.
Not a thing.
You keep winning this award. I received a letter, or the city received a letter a few days ago saying that they're pleased to notify us that our annual financial report for the fiscal year ending 2011 qualifies for a Canadian Award for Financial Reporting. The Canadian Award for Financial Reporting recognizes excellence in governmental accounting and financial reporting, representing a significant achievement by municipal government and its management. When a Canadian Award for Financial Reporting is awarded to a government, a Canadian Award for Financial Reporting Achievement is also presented to the individual designated by the government as primarily responsible for having earned its CANFR. Therefore, the Canadian Award for Financial Reporting Achievement for Financial Services is enclosed, and it goes to your department, Financial Services. I understand that a plaque is coming under separate cover, but we didn't want to wait. We wanted to make sure that we acknowledged the outstanding services of our financial services department in keeping the city's budget and making certain that we all have the information we need as a council to make the decisions we need to make to move the city forward. And so on behalf of council, I want to congratulate you and your department in achieving this award, and I'm coming over there to present it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Nice plaque. And this could be framed or stuff like that, but well done. There we go. Okay, we got the. We're going one more there. Okay.
Okay, there we go.
And we'll smile at that camera there, and that'll be it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, we need the photographer among us says, "Where was the camera?" Use your iPhone, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. Next item, item 3, is the minutes of the public hearing held Monday, January 28th. Recommendation to approve.
Moved by Councillor Robinson, second by Councillor Hodge. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 4 is the minutes of the regular council meeting held Monday, January 28th. Recommendation to approve.
Moved by Councillor Sikora, seconded by several others. I'll go with Councillor O'Neill. Councillor, did you activate? No. No. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Next item, item 5, is the minutes of the Multiculturalism Advisory Committee meeting held Wednesday, January 16th. The recommendation is to receive those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Robinson, second by Councillor O'Neill. On the minutes, Councillor Asmussen.
Thank you. Could I'd like to have the next item. Is it next item? Okay, next item, yes.
So the approval of the minutes. Okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Yep, it's on the next 5.
On the minutes, all in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
An item of business arising out of that advisory committee's meeting concerns their 2013 work plan. And recommendation is that council approve the 2013 work plan as in front of you, and there's a series of bullets speaking to that work plan.
Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Asmussen now.
Sorry about that. It's that the work plan, proposed work plan, be amended to include the study of the use of public spaces in the City Hall for display of various cultural groups in the community. That could be added to the work plan.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay. That's the motion. Moved by Councillor Asmussen, seconded by Councillor Robinson. On the amendment, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment? Opposed? Carried unanimously. On the motion as amended, which is 5.3, all in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 6 is a proposed road cancellation application. This is adjacent to properties at 3463, 3469, 3473, and 3475 Wilkie Avenue. This is Bylaw 4381. The recommendation is that Council give first, second, and third readings to City of Coquitlam Highway Dedication Cancellation Bylaw number 4381 and direct that Bylaw 4381 be advertised in accordance with the requirements of the Community Charter.
So moved. Moved by Councillor Hodge, second by Councillor Reid. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 7 is a sign amendment bylaw. This is Bylaw 4379 to permit construction site hoarding signage. The recommendation is that Council give first, second, and third readings to City of Coquitlam sign amendment bylaw number 4379.
So moved. Moved by Councillor Sikora, second by Councillor Reid. Councillor Reid.
Thank you. Within the document on page 2, it says the following criteria are proposed for the signage. The maximum copy area is 40%, and I want to look at attachment, I think it's 3 at the back, and specifically the BOSA one. Are you just counting print as the 40%? Because I want to know if the BOSA one would fall within the bylaw.
Mr. McIntyre.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. My understanding is that when staff arrived at these criteria, they wanted to make sure that some of the signage out there would comply. So that's my understanding, that because the copy is more just sort of the actual print and messaging, and it's not the entire sign area or some of the other graphics too. So 40%
could be the print and the graphics, and as long as there's lots of background. Okay, thank you. That's all I need to know.
Councillor O'Neill.
Yeah, on that same section, I had a question about the first bullet point there. Hoarding signs will be permitted provided there's no other development sign on site. Like an explanation for that, because I can imagine a situation where there's a small sign on the site that says this way to the site office or something like that with the company name on it, and then hoarding all around advertising the actual development. So I would think there would need to be some flexibility there for some small directional signs or signs that talk about safety and things like that. So no, I guess safety would be excluded, but development sign is what I'm worried about. Company's name, but directional or something like that that's also advertising the company name.
Through the chair, yes, certainly, obviously, construction, directional signage, safety signage would be exempt to that, and that's there out of necessity and for safety reasons. But I believe the intent here was to get away from like a large freestanding sign in addition to the hoarding signage is a little bit of overkill, perhaps. What I can do is I can check back with staff. It's only here for 3 readings at this point, and I can give you a more precise answer on that, but my expectation was trying to get away from any sort of overkill of signage on the site.
I thought that that's what would be the intent, but sometimes the devil is in the details. And so a sign on top of the site office that has the company name and maybe the name of the project, but also says office here. We want to make sure that that sign's not caught up in this. Okay? Thank you.
I had similar concerns to Councillor O'Neill's in that I gather that the sign bylaw currently isn't related to the size of the property, so that if you're developing a university, you're required you're required to abide by the same sign maximum square footage of 70 square feet or 6.5 square meters before a sign permit. But if you're developing a single-family lot into, say, 2 townhouses, you're still permitted that same space. And it seems to me that the scale of the project might be relevant, related to the sign bylaw. But this, of course, this bylaw is only about hoarding, and the hoarding then says you're not eligible to abide by the sign bylaw exemption of that first 70 square feet if you're using the hoarding in any way as a sign. And so I'm concerned that we might be limiting it a bit much. I look at for example, on the M3 example, which is attachment 3, we see a beautiful rendition of the building. We will be allowed to have a rendition of the building that's 250 or 300 feet tall, in that the final building will be there, but we won't be allowed to have a 15-foot tall rendition of it, because that would be considered a sign, not hoarding, since it's vertical. And so I'm looking for a little bit of an exemption. It doesn't have to be the full 70 square feet, but perhaps particularly for significant high-rise projects, finding a way that we can allow these folks to market the projects. We're trying to get improved densities in our city centre. We're trying to produce a walkable and livable community, and I think part of that is making sure people understand the scale of the project and the scale of the community that they're buying into. And so I'm all for the solution here, which is allow them to depict their community, depict some marketing messages on the hoarding. But I'm still in favor of allowing the marketing message on a development sign of some size and style. It doesn't have to be the full exemption. But apart from that, full support. I don't know how to get around this, though.
Your Worship, certainly I can take that back and pose those questions to the staff that worked in detail on this. And again, I note the bylaws here, if Council supports it for first 3 readings this evening, and it would be back at a subsequent meeting for 4th and final. So I can have that additional information for you at that time.
Very well. And while I'm on that subject, then, I understand with lower density projects in residential neighborhoods why you wouldn't want an illuminated sign. But we're building a downtown, and I think in a downtown you might want to allow some elements of the sign, small elements of the sign nonetheless, but small elements of the sign to be illuminated rather than dark at night. We're building an exciting city center here, and I think that I don't want to restrict that as much as that. That's my personal feeling, and perhaps others will feel the same. Councillor O'Neill.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, given my concern and your concern, which goes beyond even mine, that is it proper for us to actually give this first, second, and third reading at this stage? This could be an amendment of some sort that should. I'm not sure what how the process works here.
Okay, at this point we could defer it pending staff coming back with some suggested amendments if there was a motion to do that. And perhaps the question is more likely, what is the time frame for this? Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. It is possible to amend after third reading. All we have to do is include those amendments in the resolution that provides fourth reading so that there is clarity and transparency around the amendments. So by giving first three readings tonight, you would advance the process by one part of a council cycle. So it is possible to proceed that way as well.
You'd prefer an amendment in principle?
Well, I would leave that to Mr. McIntyre. Just procedurally, you can make those amendments at fourth reading by putting those amendments into the resolution.
If I could, Your Worship, and thanks, Jay, for that. There is outside interest in this bylaw amendment, and I think staff have done a really good job in bringing this forward in quite quick order. So we, again, with council's support, we note the concerns and the questions you've asked, and I'll have that information in hand if you want to tweak it before fourth reading.
I'm happy to move it forward then with that assurance. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? No. So the motion is first three readings. There's been some discussion about potential amendments later. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Councillor Asmussen.
Thank you, Mayor Stewart. I'll be stepping out on the next time as a perceived potential conflict as this property is in close proximity of my home. Thank you.
You still live there?
I still live there.
Okay. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. Item 8 is a preliminary report on an application for zoning amendment bylaw 4376. This is for a proposed subdivision at 3475 Roxton Avenue. Staff recommendations that council give first reading to City of Coquitlam zoning amendment bylaw number 4376 and refer bylaw 4376 to public hearing.
Moved by Councillor Hodge, second by Councillor O'Neill. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. No time for cookies. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. Item 9 is the authorizations for the issuance of a development variance permit for 820 Robinson Street. Prior to putting forward the recommendation on the floor, I would ask Your Worship to call for speakers.
Indeed, this is a development variance permit. We'll have a mini public hearing. Are there any people in the audience who wish to have anything to say on this matter? Are there any speakers to this item? Are there any speakers to this item? Third and final time, any speakers to this item? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk.
The staff recommendation is that council approve development variance permit for 820 Robinson Street and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute it.
Moved by Councillor Asmussen, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Councillor Sikora.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor. You know, I noticed these setbacks we seem to be relaxing all the setbacks lately. More and more setbacks are being relaxed, and there lies some of the problems. You know, the buildings are far too close to each other, and that's a concern that I do have. However, I'm not going to dwell too much on this one. I just have a little concern that, you know, there's we seem to be, allowing these variance permits over and over and over again. I've never seen so many variance permits in my life as I've seen in the last year or so. So maybe to the planning department.
Your Worship.
Did you receive a question there, or would you have anything? Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, on the face of it, the one variance does look pretty significant, going from 6 down to 1.6 meters. That's, if you will, that's sort of an internal setback. That's the distance on the lot itself. It's not adjoining a neighbor on either side. It's within the lot itself. It's because there's a separate garage, and by the time you account from the roof overhangs, it brings it that much closer together. The significant variance, I think, that I would draw attention to is on the west side of the property, and that's being treated as the rear yard. And that there, it's going from 7.6 down to 6.1. So that's that too is abutting a street. That's not next door to an existing dwelling, so it's not really closing in on that significant side.
And Mayor, what I'm talking about is that I know Mr. McIntyre and myself went for a drive the other day to look at different buildings, and you've seen for yourself the problems that some of the neighborhoods have with those setbacks. They're so close to each other that it is really frightening of what we're allowing. And I think that needs to be taken into consideration.
Okay. Well, the good thing is that these setbacks don't bring the buildings on this property closer to any of the buildings on adjacent properties. Of course, the garage is now closer to the building, but the building code would permit the garage to be attached to the building. So we could just make them attached if our zoning regulations permitted.
Oh, there is. In fact, 7.6 meters to 6.1 meters. So
yes, that's to the street, though.
That's to the street.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, Your Worship. I just need to clarify. Looking at the site plan, that's the west boundary, so that actually abuts a side yard. But no, the point I'd make there is the typical side yard is 1.5 meters, and in this case, it's because it's being treated as a rear yard, it's actually 6.1 meters. So it is a fairly generous setback, over 20 feet on that west side.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so it's not less than would be permitted on any other property. In fact, it's 4 times as much as would typically be required. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other comments from Councillor Robinson?
Thank you. I think this is one of the prettiest little developments that I've seen, and it contrasts dramatically with what we saw last week in terms of the articulation. And so I just want to thank the people who put it together. I think it's quite pretty, and point out to staff that this is a much nicer sort of design, and it's grouped nicely, so it has this feel of some smaller units and more interesting design rather than a big overbearing huge mansion. So it's just a contrast from last week. Just thought I'd point it out so you see what we like. Thanks.
Good stuff. Councillor O'Neill.
Yes, I originally pushed my button because Councillor Secor pushed my button on the issue of setbacks. But before I get to that, I do want to say I wasn't going to talk about, but I have the same view of this project as Councillor Robinson has. That it's very attractive, and I think it's going to be a real asset to the neighborhood, a sort of densification that we're looking for. I too looked when Councillor Secor talks about the concern over the diminished setbacks and things like that. I saw that right away too. But then I started looking at the plans and looking to see where those setbacks were. And I think Appendix A shows quite nicely how well centered this project is going to be, surrounded by ample lawns and trees. Indeed, some of a great many of the existing trees on the property line are still going to be there. So I'm completely satisfied that this development permit variance is warranted, justified, and worthy of my approval. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to do this again because Okay. I've read this once before, but I couldn't. I had to put my glasses on last time I read it too. I'm actually completely supportive of this kind of development. These are 1,300 and 1,400 square foot units plus basement. That's the size of a family home, and it needs to be the way in which our residential properties move. We can't be continuing to foster the 4,000, 6,000 square foot homes that Councillor Secor actually raised a notice of motion at the last meeting. We can't be doing that, where this is the kind of thing. It's the same size building, mind you, but it allows for 3 family homes, no basement suites. It's just to me, it's
Not yet.
It can't be, actually. There are no basement suites, but it allows that 3 families will live very, very comfortably on a single-family lot in pretty close to an urban center that we're developing around a SkyTrain station. To me, this is the direction we have to go over and over again in our single-family neighborhoods, largely because if we offer this option rather than the massive single-family home, will be more sustainable, but will also, builders will be able to produce affordable family homes in central Coquitlam, and that's, to me, a laudable goal. And it's pretty nice. I think it's, I'm not sure I'd say it's cute, but Matthew Cheng does produce some good products. So, any other discussion? Seeing none. The motion is DVP. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 10 pertains to the Port Mann Highway 1 signage issues. It's a report of the General Manager of Engineering and Public Works. Staff recommendations that Council authorize the attached letter be sent to the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure, expressing Coquitlam's ongoing concerns about the lack of adequate signage on the new Port Mann Highway 1 facility.
Your Worship, just by way of brief introduction, staff have taken this matter really as far as they can at the staff level. As you can see in the report, we've had some wins. The province, however, insists that Lougheed Highway should not be called Lougheed Highway but remain as Route 7. It is a policy of the province, evidently. Therefore, staff have drafted a letter that asks the Minister to reconsider, but also if she would be open to a meeting, and we would be happy to support any such action. Thank you.
Thank you. Any motions?
I'll move the recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Zakora, second by Councillor Hodge, and I will speak to it because I was actually had the occasion to be at a social event the other day, and I posed the question to 15 people in the audience, and not one of them got the answer right. What is, can you give the real names for Highway 7, 7A, and 7B? No one got it right. And yet that's the signage. Our signage in Coquitlam says 7A, 7B, and 7. We continue to ask the ministry, and they say, well, out in central Okanagan, Highway 97, it seems to work, because it doesn't have another name. It's called Highway 97. Here, it has another name. It's had another name for all my life, and same thing with Mariel Bypass, and same thing with Barnett, which incidentally is Highway 7A. And this has to get fixed. There are other issues. If you go south from here, and that's called Lougheed Highway West, but it's south, toward the bridge, once you pass the point of no return where you're on the bridge, that's when the sign appears that says toll highway ahead. But you're already on the toll highway at that point, so if you didn't want to be on there, you should, I don't know what you do, but as well, eastbound and westbound Lougheed, to stay on Lougheed, westbound, you just simply take the rightmost lanes, and that stays in westbound. Eastbound, you have to take an exit from Lougheed Highway to stay on Lougheed Highway. Actually, they call it last exit to stay on Lougheed Highway, and yet when you take the exit, you're still on the same highway you were on before. So I think the ministry, perhaps they're making some decisions in Kelowna, or they're making decisions in Victoria about highway systems in Coquitlam. They need to be local. They need to cater to the natives here in Coquitlam, who, quite frankly, are frustrated as can be about the nomenclature that they've chosen for a highway system that is going to be the most complex interchange in the province, perhaps the most complex interchange in Western Canada. They should be making sure that signage is the least complex part of it. And that's my really calm version of how I feel on this subject. Councillor Asmundson.
Well, thank you. The ministry seems to be working out of an ivory tower in a map, looking at and saying, oh, this is great, not on the ground when people are driving. You know, people that visit this lower mainland complain to us about the signage and the confusing way of getting around. And I say to people, well, yeah, but it's just as bad as us that live here. The signage isn't good for us that live here either. And thank you for reminding us about that issue. When you come across the Port Mann Bridge and you're heading westbound, nothing says Coquitlam. Signs say United Boulevard, north and south. And I'm going, well, United Boulevard north goes like a couple blocks, and that's it, folks. United Boulevard south is like, okay, what's that? And, I mean, it gives you no description of the city you're heading into, the major road, which is Lougheed, that's going to take you through the area. So if people are coming along the freeway now, and you have to make decisions quicker at these points as to where you're going, you are inviting serious motor vehicle accidents to happen on the highway because people will be suddenly switching lanes or switching out of lanes because they are confused. To simply not have the sign say, coming across the bridge, Coquitlam, Lougheed Highway, and have Highway 7 at the symbol at the end of Lougheed Highway or underneath it, or Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, to tell people where you're going. But, you know, we've had to struggle for a year now requesting that Coquitlam be put on some signs out there. But I don't know where the people in the Ministry of Highways live, work, and decide these decisions. But it does not make any logical sense for the average person living in that area finding their way around, and especially with the Cape Horn interchange now being a lot more complex. It will move traffic better and flow. But if you really want to make it work well, message to the Ministry of Highways, make the signs understandable to the people that live in that area. And we go by names, not by numbers. And I thank the Mayor for pointing out that most people don't know what 7A, 7B are, or Highway 7. People give you a blank stare. Lougheed is 7, B is Mary Hill Bypass. And really coming off the freeway, United Boulevard, well, if it said Mary Hill Bypass this lane, people would understand it. Lougheed this way, people, when you say United Boulevard north and south, people are going like, where is that? And so just, I don't know. But this has been a problem with the ministry, and I think the government needs to understand that this issue needs to change in their department and signage all throughout the Lower Mainland on how they sign their highways to make more signage. The biggest complaint you get from tourists in here, there is not enough signage. There's such a limited amount of road signage on our highways and on our streets to direct people where to go. I could rant for a little while longer, but I can see other councillors are going to pick up the slack for me, so I will leave it for them to continue. Thank you.
Yes, to the extent you've left slack, Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. I'm always a slack picker-upper. I have just as much outrage, and I love when we have these joys of decisions being made from a centralized office when they don't really understand how locals use the roads. So I posted on Facebook my own frustration and, of course, made my own mistake because 7A, anyone know what 7A is? That's the Barnett Highway. Well, I didn't know it was the Barnett Highway. I called it the Barnett Highway. So I posted on Facebook my own frustration, and it was the longest list of comments I've had in my Facebook history. From Greg, at least we all know how to get to United Boulevard. They make it sound like a city. You don't know you're in Coquitlam and no idea how to get to Poco. From Barb, family and friends visiting Coquitlam often ask what United Boulevard is and why there is no signage indicating Coquitlam. From Susan, thank you, Selena. I get confused all the time. Please continue to sign them as Lougheed Highway and Mary Hill Bypass, and numbers are completely confusing. From Michael, yes, it should say to Coquitlam Town Center. From Steve, the signage is quite inadequate and poorly thought out. Let's get it changed. From Linda, goes on and on. From one woman, Erica said, I got badly lost in Surrey yesterday for the same reason. I'd never heard of Route 17 and 15. We need to get back to the old system and have some sort of legend. Like, it's just people are just completely out of their depths in using any of this. And it goes on and on. Like it just keeps going. So. I want to highlight the fact that I think staff did a great job in their report saying that Lougheed Highway isn't even their highway. It's our road, but they're insisting on applying their policy to our road. And I think that's an example of really not working with the municipalities. So I do have a question. I can go on just like everyone else will, but so I just have one question, and I'm sure we'll hear from my colleagues. Is there a way that we can publicize that if you have a complaint about this, this is who you call? Like a minister's email or a phone number, or is there something that we can do, put it on our website that says, we get it, we're working on it, but if you have concerns, please contact them directly?
Can we put up some signs like Trio did?
Yeah, so put up signs.
Mr. Suzak.
Your Worship, we will discuss this with our communications department, and we will sort out an appropriate message for people to follow up with the province. We just have to identify exactly which branch and whether it's located in Victoria or here. We will look into that, and we will get something set up for that.
Last time I checked, we're heading into an election, and this would be sort of the kind of thing that we might be able to actually get some action on. And if you could circulate that communication to all of council, because I want to get back to these folks and say, you're all right. This is where you take those complaints. That would be fabulous. Thank you.
Yep. I suspect that not many politicians have weighed in on this provincially, because this probably is a bureaucratic thing. I'd be surprised if any of them had, but we may have to drag them in as well. Councillor Reid.
Thank you. Well, two things. One, as to your suggestion, I suggest you bring all the folks out from Victoria that developed this sign thing and drop them off and then see if they can find their way home. I doubt it, especially if they only had numbers to go by. Two things I have to complain about. Who in the heck ever heard of United Boulevard North? What happened to the sign that just said Mariner Way, which is a major road for us and makes much more sense? So I'd like to see Mariner Way put back up. And the second thing is, last week when I was coming over or I guess more than a week ago now, was coming over in a rainy time coming from Surrey home. As soon as I got on the bridge, on the Surrey end of the bridge, there was a sign still up that said 7A and 7B, right lane. And I saw it, and the car in front of me saw it. They pulled on, I pulled on behind them, and about 100 yards in, the lane just stopped. It was obviously an old sign. And he or she, whoever was driving, just about got hit coming back on, because there's no room. You're right on the bridge at that point, and you can't get back in. It's really dangerous. So if they're putting their new stupid signs up, at least they could take some of the ones that they'd already put up down first, because that really is a traffic danger. So if you could, Maurice or Bill or whoever's writing to them, that's a biggie as far as I'm concerned, that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor O'Neill.
Yeah, thank you. At least I think we don't have this quite as bad as Surrey does, because not only they call it Highway 15, right? And that's the Pacific Highway, but it's also 176th, I believe. So it goes by 3 names. So we've got stuff by 2 names. They've got a bigger problem there with their 3 names. So thank goodness it's not that bad. So I take this report as basically staff saying they're at wit's end. They've done all they can do here, and they're suggesting they can't get any further, so we have to turn political here. And this is why everybody wants to leap to the microphones, because, hey, that's what we do. We do political. We do it pretty well here. So I'm going to do it really simply. I'm going to suggest, I'm going to assert, I'm going to declare that the ministry has to listen to our concerns, has to consider well our suggestions, has to then make a decision, and then has to take action on what we are asking for. 3 more sentences. Do it now. Thank you.
Those 3 sentences, those last 3 sentences were quite impactful. All 3 of those sentences.
That's right.
Well, is that a motion?
No, that was emotion.
Emotion. Oh, that was emotion. Well, I'll tell you, we're all going to approach this from a slightly different perspective. We're all going to take, though, the point of view that our residents aren't being well served by this signage. And the people that are trying to get to Coquitlam Centre who don't live here, I've heard from soccer families and people trying to get to Evergreen Theatre or a local high school that don't live here, that end up in Cloverdale trying to turn around, so that because we got to get this fixed. And if necessary, we'll go to wherever these decisions are being made and make the trip over there and get it done. At the end of when all of this is done, we have to have the better signage here, because otherwise we're going to end up with accidents, we're going to end up with people hurt, we're going to end up with not just people in the wrong place. But, yes, and again, then Councillor O'Neill, of course, always concerned about the carbon footprint. Yes. Global warming is at risk, according to Councillor O'Neill. Seeing none others, there's a motion on the floor to authorize and a letter be sent. All in favor? Opposed? Strong letter to follow.
Item 11 is the 2012 Progress Report from the Staff Committee on Business Improvements and Outdated Rules. The recommendations that Council endorsed the 2013 work program include as Attachment B in the report. Moved
by Councillor Adams.
We do have a presentation from staff as well.
Too late. It's over. All in favor? Opposed?
About.
I think they're talking about streamlining the approvals process, and we just did.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm pleased to introduce Michelle Hunt, our Manager of Corporate Planning, who is the lead on our business improvements work. I'd also like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the good work of Michelle and our staff committee that addresses this initiative, as well as the departments that actually make the improvements happen and bring them about. Michelle has a short presentation tonight to go through some of the initiatives undertaken in the last half of 2012, as well as our program for 2013. And with that, I'll turn things over to Michelle.
Thank you, John. Oops. Your Worship and Council, just a brief presentation to give you an update on the Business Improvements and Outdated Rules Committee. So in 2012, we started with 58 items, and it morphed into 59. And of those, we resolved 23 of them. Those are items where we actually made some changes. We improved technology, improved processes, and made a substantial change. There were 12 other items where we looked at those, and after further analysis, realized that there wasn't a lot of benefit, or legally we couldn't make any change. And then there are 24 items where we started work on those and have added those to our 2013 work plan. So I'm just going to give you some of the quick highlights from the last half of the year, because I was here in front of you in July. And I've broken them down into 3 categories. The first one is customer service improvements, and those are initiatives that have really directly impacted our customers, our partners, and the community. The first big one, which you all know about, is the Intermunicipal Business License Program. The bylaw you passed in December, and that went live January 1st and is well underway. Another item that you had been asking for was a status report of our development applications and building permits online. And we took an interim step here and have posted, it gets updated weekly, but it's an online status report that shows applicants where their building permit application is in the process, and or the development application. Another one that you're well aware of is the Local Area Services Program, and the changes that came in front of you a couple of times. And lastly was some work on facility use licenses and the insurance requirements that we require when renters of our facilities or want to rent our facilities. And we changed that to make it easier for those people to get insurance. Under business process improvements, this is where we have departments working together. Finance and ICT did a number of electronic processes, the purchase requisitioning system and approval system, the vendor invoicing, and we actually had a comment from one vendor say, yay, Coquitlam's gone green, so that they could submit their invoices electronically now. And also process between engineering and building permits for new service installation requests to make sure that the proper permits and inspections get done when a homeowner has a new service installed at their premises. And lastly, on the administrative side, another one that you're well aware of is the electronic distribution. Clerks and ICT worked hard on doing that, and that saves paper and saves time. Clerks is also working on document scanning, and we have a number of departments that want to be able to scan large documents into our records management system, and Clerks is working with those departments to provide the guidelines and requirements around that, the legal requirements in order to do that. And the Fire Department has successfully implemented their electronic duty roster, and there's further work going to happen on that in 2013. So just to put this into perspective, this initiative raised in 2010, and it's part of our Achieving Excellence in City Governance, and we've actually added this performance measure to our strategic plan. It was started in 2010, and we had 24 items that were completed at that time, and you'll see that on average we're around 35 initiatives every year that we're managing to fulfill. So moving forward for 2013, we have 44 new, or some are new. There's 20 new items on there, and the rest are continuing from 2012. I just want to make the point that we're at the point where we've done all the quick, easy ones. We're now really into making the big, substantial changes, and so we have less on the work plan for 2013 because we've got bigger and more complex issues to deal with. Some of the exciting ones which I'm looking forward to is Recreation is going to be implementing a one-pass program. They're also going to be putting their facility schedules online so that users can actually see when a room is open or when they can book it. Engineering is going to be doing some improvements to Queue the Map, and we're also starting to look at mobile applications for handheld devices as well. And now I just want to talk a little bit about the context of this program in the context of customer service. So, you know, there's three parts to providing great customer service. There's our systems and processes, there's making sure our employees and staff have the knowledge and skills to provide that service, and then there's sort of the culture and the value that's placed on customer service. So the systems and processes bit, this is what we've been working on for 3 years. This is our business improvements and outdated rules. It's looking at using technology as best we can. It's looking at being innovative. It's getting rid of those outdated rules. It's looking at our processes. And I really believe that this has become part of our culture. Department work plans now are including these types of items every year, and it's just something that is now ingrained in us, and we're doing it. And I think we're well underway to continue doing this. The second part is around staff having the knowledge and skills to deliver good customer service. And our HR department is always offering training. This year we had training for customer conflict resolution. Our social planner gave us training on engaging diverse communities, which I attended and really enjoyed. And frontline training for engineering folks and our Parks and Rec summer students or summer staff. So lots of training going on. The other piece is around data and information sharing, and this is sort of using our performance measures, using our data to provide good customer service, looking at it, making sure we're making improvements where we need to, and that ties in with our customer feedback mechanisms. So using our Ipsos Reid study, which gives us a good sort of overview of how satisfied the public is, our citizens are, but also drilling down a little bit. This year we drilled down into the business licensing area and asked some specific questions around that process. We also, Engineering and Public Works have implemented a survey for their construction crew. And again, this is really using that customer feedback to deliver this good customer service. The last part is around our corporate culture, and this is sort of what value do we place on customer service. And this was started back in 2003 with a staff committee, again, that had developed a guide called The Path to Exceptional Customer Service, and they developed some guidelines and some standards. It also talks, it's also about leadership, and the reason I've added that in there is because this is not just talking about our frontline customer service staff. This is talking about everybody across the organization. Customer service is everybody, and I think that's a message that needs to be reinforced. And then it's recognizing those who do go above and beyond when they're providing customer service. And so this is what we're going to be focusing on in 2013. It's another reason that we only have 44 items on our work plan, because we really want to dedicate some effort to this organizational culture, this reinforcing that customer service is not just a priority, but it's a quality we want to be known for. And I really want to use Carbon Cutters as an example here, because they've made tremendous inroads in helping us save energy by making it fun, by having these really neat initiatives that really ingrains into everybody in the organization that you turn off your lights, you turn off your monitor, you know, we really want to do this. And so the committee is hoping that we can use some of these ideas and reinforce that message that customer service is a priority, and it's a value that we all value. So with those three things, we will have exceptional customer service. And I just want to end my presentation by saying that this is not something that's not working. It is working. And I went out to managers and I said, over the last year, can you just send me some examples of where your staff have been recognized for the great work? And you know, I had so many examples back from you know, a customer here that talked about their business license experience, and you know, the staff were informative and available and friendly. From engineering, where they said, you know, every person I spoke to, from the frontline counter staff to the people that came out and helped me at my home, you know, a great big thank you. The Relay for Life, somebody there said, you know, the staff were fantastic, they were totally on top of everything. And then two more, and then I'll finish my presentation. The customer is not just the public, it's not just the people outside the organization, it's helping each other. And two great examples here of where we really came together to help each other. And one was where there was a box of paper flying around Mariner Way, and an engineering staff member was trying to clean it up, and landscaping crew came along and, you know, dropped everything, got out, helped them, and got that cleaned up. And you know, the foreman wrote to the Parks and Rec and just said, like, this is a great example of where these staff went above and beyond the call of duty. And Sheena's gone, but I had a lot of comments about the financial services staff and what great service they give. So I just really wanted to end this by saying, you know, we're right, and everything right. We just want to reinforce it, and there's always room for improvement. And lastly, I want to acknowledge the committee members, because I'm not doing this alone. There is somebody from every division on the committee. These people all have the sort of same passion that I do for this customer service initiative that we want to undertake. And with that, I'm suggesting that we're out of the outdated rules and we're into a more holistic customer service
Very good.
program. Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you. And I must echo those comments. We get actually quite a few emails and messages about above and beyond the call, a little bit of surprising customer service, eyebrow-raising customer service, because I think sometimes people's expectations of City Hall are not as high, and we hear our staff raising those expectations and impressing people all the time. Certainly hear the other one too, but we also see responses to those to see if we can improve processes, and that's great. I thank you very much for that. I see Councillor O'Neill.
Yeah, thank you. Good presentation and a tremendously heartening report, especially to get to receive this in the middle of a time in the last several weeks. We've been hearing a lot about activist groups calling for the cutting of red tape. Provincial and federal government have initiatives cutting red tape, and it's good to see that not only have we embarked on this, but are also showing great successes. And you know how I like to find quotes to back up my speeches quite often and my presentations here. So I looked for quotes over the weekend to support the fact of a bureaucracy doing a job well and cutting red tape, and I couldn't find any. There were no quotes out there. All the quotes about bureaucracy and red tape are all, you know, even from, you know, everybody from Charles Dickens in one of his books talking about the office of circumlocution, things going around in circles, to the mild-mannered and gentlemanly Senator Eugene McCarthy, who, oh, this is terrible, said the only thing that saves us from the bureaucracy is its inefficiency. Oh, how hurtful, I know. It's just terrible. You said to have fun, so we're having a little fun here. But a great report, and it's great to see that this progress has been made and this focus continues. And I heartily agree that above all, customer service is a tremendous thing to focus on. One little thing here, I see that in our Ipsos Reid annual telephone survey, 94% of residents' satisfaction. And that's where we go out to the public and we actually ask several hundred people what they think of various things. We have a little more difficulty connecting with the business community because they aren't citizens here, so we don't. The Ipsos Reid poll, I believe, does not actively seek out responses from business operators. Is that correct?
That is correct, although they do offer a survey for the business community. We could actually commission them to do a similar survey for our business community, and that's something that I've been talking with the Deputy City Manager and the Manager of Economic Development about. The other survey that the Manager of Economic Development does, though, is he has his own survey as part of his Business Retention and Expansion Program that he asks a series of questions as well. So we're doing some of that surveying, but Ipsos Reid does actually provide that.
Okay. That's great that you're thinking of that, because I was going to suggest starting to look at it. There you are again. You're a step ahead in anticipating requests. We do have this business licensing customer feedback survey, which gives us some good response, but that's a limited sort of an uptake there. So an actual scientific poll, if it fits into our budget and our ongoing plans and things like that, I think that would be very useful. It's an important part of our community. They pay a lot of taxes. 4 times the level that the residences pay, and so they deserve to have their voice heard pretty clearly. So if you can keep thinking about ways of doing that, that would be great too. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Councillor O'Neill, for always bringing a quote with you. Just a little bit of caution that the problem with taking quotes from the internet is that it's hard to verify their authenticity, and that quote is from Abraham Lincoln. Councillor Asmussen.
Michelle, maybe you got wrong. Okay. Thank you. Michelle, very good report. I want to thank you and staff for the last couple of years for the energy and the work that staff has gone into making this happen, getting on board, coming up with the ideas, being part of the process to solve the problems in the city, make things better. When we get into the business feedback and the public capital works construction survey, I'd like that somehow to be tied into some future annual report to let us know how are we doing, just for council's information, that check back to be added into some reports, maybe good feedback for council. On your change in the name, I just have a suggestion for you. It would be business and customer service improvements.
Perfect, yeah.
Okay, because we're talking, when you say business improvements and customer service, it would flow better if business and customer service improvements would be a better way of phrasing it in my books. That's how I would like to see it. The other part of the report that really caught my attention, which I think is, once again, a step to our executive team and our staff, though, when you lead on page 7, staff believe that continuous improvement culture is well on the way to becoming embedded in all departments, and improvement projects are now being included in all departments and work plans. And that's, to me, since I come on council, is really key to moving this city forward and making it an improved, better functioning city for our taxpayers. And to have that culture now being accepted by staff and in that report was really, to me, a positive thing to see. And I thank all of you for being involved in that and making that happen. The one point I'd like more of my comment to council is, and I thank you for recognizing it, and Michelle stated in her comments, is that staff have been involved in doing what I think probably a lot of the low-hanging fruit improvements that have been needed to done. There's going to be some more expensive things needed to be looked at, and that's going to be up to council now to carry the ball and keep this momentum moving forward on this progressive change that staff have really picked up and been part of, and the need to keep supporting our staff in the tremendous work that they're doing. So that's my last comment on this, and a very good report. Thank you.
Absolutely. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. I love your report. Maybe I'm just a bureaucrat at heart, but I just find... So in the...
Or maybe Michelle isn't.
Well, no, just I was admiring Councillor O'Neill's quotes that he got, and the one that caught my attention was, if we could ever make red tape nutritional, we could feed the world. But we might starve the world, given all the hard work that you've done. So I want to thank you. I do have one question about the report. It talks about, this is about the business licensing customer feedback survey, and that people were sort of unhappy with the business licensing process, but it was more the other aspects of setting up their business, their incorporation and all that kind of stuff. Have we given that feedback to the Chamber of Commerce? Because I would see that they might be interested in knowing what some of the challenges are of our local businesses, because I would see that as their void to fill. Is that something we could
Actually, that's a very good idea, yes.
share with them, that we're getting some of this feedback, because then they can respond. That's sort of their bailiwick. That was just a thought I had. And the other one, because once you send us these kinds of reports, which are really helpful in helping us understand all the things that are going on, and I have a great appreciation for that, is it gets my head going about, oh, we could do. And so I was wondering about the use of technology, and we've done a fabulous job of engaging staff in how to be more efficient. But we have a whole city out there, and there are ways to let them know when a light is broken, when a sign is broken, and is that something that we're turning our mind to in terms of using smartphones and photos and...
Actually, we just had a demo on a solution for that today, and we have another one tomorrow, so absolutely, yes, we are heading down that road.
Can we see her every week?
Then we say, oh, I'm popular.
You know what? That is absolutely fabulous. And my last comment is just that everything that we've been doing is really about customer service.
Yeah, it is.
All of it.
Yes.
So I would even suggest that you could just do the staff committee on customer service, and you don't even need the business improvements in there. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll echo everything that my colleagues have said, and I will add two short stories. There were a couple of stories that you put up there that were examples, and I'll cite them both because I think they speak about customer service. This is a customer service-oriented organization. I want it to be, and I think all of Council wants it to be. I was speaking at a regional choir concert over the Christmas break, and one of the local principals stole the microphone from me. Like I was speaking and welcoming them. Yeah, exactly. Imagine taking a microphone from the hand of a politician when he's not done yet. And she had a story to tell. Walton Elementary had been subjected to some flooding, and our building department therefore had been in there helping them with as they worked through the retrofit and the rebuilding of the elements of the school. And in the middle of just before the morning recess, a teacher had come up to the principal quite anxious that there was a dead rat on the schoolyard playground, and suddenly our building inspector from behind the principal came to the rescue and said, I'll take care of it. And one of our building inspectors went out and dealt with the rat. And from the point of view of a principal who's got a very busy day and a staff that's anxious about children going out there and having perhaps frightened children, this was, from their point of view, that was ultimate customer service, going above and beyond the call. Another element was when Cora Muesli-Sulfidu, who is the founder of Cora's Breakfast Restaurant, was out from Montreal for the opening of Cora's. They talked about the fact that weekend, a building inspector, again, I hate to focus on one department, but a building inspector had come in on the weekend to do the plumbing because it needed to get done in order to get the final approval for the next item so that they could open the restaurant on time. Didn't have to, but we see that time and time again with elements throughout our department. And I want to applaud those who've worked hard on this thing because there's some great stuff happening, and I think we've got still room to grow, of course, but great stuff. Thanks for a wonderful report. Did we pass anything?
It depends on whether you choose to accept Councillor Asmundsen's early first moving.
Councillor Asmundsen moves endorsement as Councillor Robinson seconds. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Next item, item 12, pertains to the issuance of an RFEI and licenses for vending on city property. The two-part recommendations that Council directs staff to issue a public request for information and expression of interest for the allocation of licenses to operate vending carts and vending vehicles on city property in accordance with the city's street vending and special event vending bylaw. This is bylaw 4308. And 2, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to issue up to 10 licenses to operate these vending carts and vending vehicles on city property at locations to be determined by the general manager of engineering and public works in accordance with the same bylaw.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Robinson, second by Councillor Asmundson. Councillor Asmundson.
Well, I'm looking very favorable to seeing this in our city. I hopefully there's good uptake. I'd sort of like to know, hopefully, when do you think that with the request for information proposals that we could have some vending happening within the city? Would be in time for this summer season?
Through the chair, yes, it is intended that the program will be up and running hopefully by the summertime of this year.
Great. Hopefully we get a great uptake on this. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 13 is an application for a structural change and a permanent change regarding the extension of hours to a liquor primary license for Micky's Public House at 170 Golden Drive, Coquitlam. Council has the option to support or not support the application, and that the city clerk's report be serve as council's comment to the LCLB.
Moved by Councillor O'Neill. Which option? A? Okay, just one moment, please. No worries. One of the challenges is there's a staff recommendation that includes 2 options, so we will allow, we obviously have to move one of the 2 options, and Councillor O'Neill. Councillor O'Neill moves option 1B and 2. That's correct? 1B? Yeah. 1B and 2. Okay. And seconded by? Is there another motion?
Move A.
Councillor Asmundson moves 1A and 2. Is there a seconder?
There's only 2 options here, folks.
I'd like to move 1C. There's no motion on the floor. Is there around? I see Councillor O'Neill speaking to the issue. Nope, Councillor O'Neill, that's clear. The
issue. Can we speak without a motion being on the floor then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So I have, I can understand the difficulty with this issue and the fact that, there's some hesitancy. But I'm going to support it because of the specific location where this is, and because the only feedback we got from the public was supportive of it, and that it's in an area that's not going to have residential implications as well. I'm persuaded that it's not. I don't think I'm not persuaded. There's nobody's really persuaded me on this one, but I don't think that it's going to cause undue problems there. And so basically, it's the main thing though is the location, which if something like this is going to happen anywhere, this is a very good place for it to unfold.
Thank you, Councillor Reid.
Thank you. Just through to staff. Do these closing hours match up with the ones for most of our pubs, 1:30 and 2?
Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. At this stage, no, but 2 other pubs in Coquitlam have applied for the same increase in hours, and those applications are currently being advertised, and those reports will be coming in the next few weeks. This is the first to ask, and it is an increase in hours from what I would say is, I can't say it's the norm. I don't know all of the pub's hours, but 2 others, Woody's and the Town Hall, have both applied for the same increase.
Yeah. I'm not in favor of this late. And also, I just don't know why anyone would want to open a pub at 9 a.m.
I think some of the changing usage is applied to things like brunch on weekends and having certain drinks that contain alcohol as part of that brunch experience.
Well, they're changing their liquor primary license to 9 a.m. So
yes, so that they can serve things like mimosas at breakfast and stuff like that. It is possible, as the report notes, Council has received these in relation to food primary licenses in the last little while and chose to only support extensions on Friday and Saturday evenings only. Because we are not the grantor of license, this isn't the decision, but in the past, the Liquor Control and Licensing Branch has tended to follow Council's direction in this regard. I can't promise that they will, but they have recently. And so there is an option C, as alluded to, the Mayor, would be a limited approval if that met the approval of the majority, but it is before Council as it is.
And when you say limited approval, you mean what?
In the case of the food primary licenses that ask for increases past midnight, Council approved increases only on Friday and Saturday evenings only.
Correct. Yeah, I gotcha. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Rasmussen.
Well, thank you. And I've had some confusion with this one, but this application here, the consultation's gone out. Now, it's in an area where there's no public, nobody living around, so I don't have much of a problem with changing the hours. And what this issue now is, because it comes in our liquor licensing, is that this was a restaurant with a small bar area, and now
the other way around.
And they're flipping it, and they're just making it completely a pub bar area in that area, and they want the extended hours. So the public consultation's gone out. We've done that. And within the rules now, there isn't so much the categories of restaurant pub anymore.
There are two licenses. One's a food primary, which is typically what a restaurant would get. And a restaurant that applies for a food primary license is allowed to serve liquor until midnight without coming before Council. That is something that the province would grant on its own discretion, or not grant, depending on the nature of the application. If a food primary, which is a restaurant, would seek to go past midnight, that was what would come before Council. So
I guess, I mean, I can support this. One of my problems with, I think, Councillor Reid and I talked about, is there's no real distinction between a restaurant and a pub or anything within licensing anymore. And so most people, because a pub, even with this hours, is going to be serving a full menu of food within their establishment, but not as a sit-down restaurant. So it just the way the licensing changes have happened today, it's
true. I think in many ways the complaints have primarily come from the pub industry, that they feel that restaurants are acting as pubs. So it's been more from that side, but that is correct. There's been some blurring of the lines, and I think through the province's attempt to simplify and reduce the number of licenses, you're starting to get some compression and similarities across the spectrum of licenses.
And that's my issue. I mean, where this place is located, it's not going to impact the community. The hours aren't going to impact the community. I can see the morning stuff, because they're looking for that certain crowd of workers in that area for that. Now, I don't have a problem, but I just have a problem with how we're left as a council, basically all the restaurants becoming pubs. But we have no mechanism within the guidelines anymore really to deal with that unless it's the hours and stuff. So we're really limited in our, as with the, so that's, and I don't know, we've sent letters, we've talked about this for a couple of years now without the province really uptaking some of our wishes. So we're kind of stuck with this. So, you know, after my, for me, I don't have a problem with this one here because where it's located, the extension, the noise, the problems down there. I do have a problem to the province again about the lack of distinction between restaurant and pubs and all these things becoming, restaurants becoming basically pubs now. And, yeah, and so that's my concerns about this. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll echo some of what Councillor Atkinson has said. I don't have the last concern related to this, obviously, because this isn't the restaurant becoming a pub. This is a pub. There's an element of this that had a food primary license that is being eliminated, and now the whole thing would be a pub. But there's always been a pub there, and my concern isn't that the pub can serve more customers, rather that the pub is in the right place. and this one's not in the right place. If we were going to decide as a community where we wanted liquor primary establishments, particularly nightclubs and clubs that are open later at night, we wouldn't choose some place where no one could walk to it and no one could take a bus away from it. There's a bus there. There's a very infrequent bus late at night that goes past this establishment, but that's it. And I don't know that the users of this pub are going to be regular users of that bus. In fact, I suspect it's not the case. I take a look at places like John B., where probably half the people walk to it, or at least have access to a relatively frequent bus network. The same here in the city centre. There's a little pub. I'd say that almost everybody walks to there that uses that establishment. If we're going to establish these places where people can go out and have a drink in the evening, we want them to be able to get home safely. And this is a place where you have to drive to it, and you have to drive home. Almost all of their customers will have to drive home. I don't think extended hours at that kind of a place are the answer. I recognize fully that from the noise side of it, well, let's put them in an industrial area. But this is supposed to be a public house, not a nightclub that is a destination. And if it's a nightclub with a destination, we're going to have to try to find a way to get safely home. This one doesn't do it for me, and I'm trying to comprehend how this extension of hours benefits the public. I'm not as worried about the 9 a.m. start on these kinds of applications, although I have trouble understanding the need to do it. I recognize that every now and then there's a World Cup soccer,
And I would just, it's a comment I meant to make earlier, that because they're getting approval doesn't mean they're always open at those hours. They're just seeking the window in which they can be open in some instances. And your example is perfect on what
certainly
when that
I've seen places that have to open at 4 in the morning if you're going to cater to the people that want to watch a 5 p.m. game in Europe. I understand that. And that occasional use isn't a concern of mine, but the concern of mine is the transportation from this one, because it's just not adequate to allow public transit to be a solution for these folks. Councillor Hodge.
Yeah, I had a couple of concerns on this one, and the first that you outlined. It's not a neighborhood pub. It's not in a neighborhood, and it's on a major transportation route. It's going to be very busy, but not a public transportation. It's going to be a drive-by. It's in the parking lot of a gas station. This is where people come to in their cars and drive by. So I'm concerned about going to later in the morning, because I think that as you stay open later, the potential for people to have more to drink before they drive, I think is a concern in that neighborhood. And I'm also concerned about the other applications that may be following this and what precedent that we set, because the next thing we'll hear is that the pub across town is open late, so we should. I'm a little uneasy with where this one is going, and I'm also I'm concerned just about the location. I think from a noise perspective, it's great. It's away from everywhere, but I think the fact that it's away from everywhere increases my worry on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
I think, Mayor, you sort of hit the nail on the head for me. That's been my ambivalence. I'm not keen I'm absolutely fine with the hours. To me, it's not about the hours, it's about the location. But I also think that whatever council approved the location to have a pub that's a drive-to pub also was part of it. So we can't really go back and fix it. So at this point, I'm really torn. I can see reasons to support it, because I don't think it's our place to dictate, whether people want to have a pint of beer at 9 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning. It's really, I'm absolutely fine with it. But I am concerned about that it's a drive-to location, and that in terms of the, serving the public, what's the best decision. So I'm still torn on the process, on making the decision.
Perhaps I could as Council would have seen in the report, I think the RCMP has expressed that concern, and the applicant has recognized that concern, and in their letter of intent did speak to certain provisions that they wanted to set up in terms of ride homes and designated driver programs and stuff like that. So I think there is awareness, and it's one of those decisions.
Thanks for your best attempt at helping, Jay. Well, I'll wait till there's a vote, and then I'll decide.
Motion on the floor, Your Worship?
No, there's no motion yet.
There's no motion.
Well, I could move 1A and B, or and 2, I mean.
1A and 2.
Okay, the motion is 1A.
Just not support.
Moved by Councillor Reid, seconded by Councillor Asmundson. Sorry? Okay, and there's a motion on the floor that you seconded, actually, to giving potential view to the potential impacts to choose not support the application. In this case, we wouldn't support the application. We would then submit that to the province, and it may well run a public consultation process in light of our not supporting the application. Councillor O'Neill.
Yeah, so just on now that we've got a specific motion on the floor and we've heard all the discussion, I'm not deaf to what the people are saying about, that my colleagues are saying about the lack of suitable public transit in the area. But I think that is an argument about whether or not this company should be in business at all. And if this was some sort of a hearing on whether it should have a business license revoked because it's the wrong business in the wrong place or something like that, that's where that argument has traction. This is already an establishment that sells a lot of liquor working in this place, and it wants to now try to improve its business and better serve the public. So on that narrow ground, I'm going to oppose this because I think this will serve the public better. There's been no opposition in the area. As the clerk has pointed out, the applicant has recognized some of the limitations of the location and is going to be attempting to deal with those. But unless we want to talk about the very existence of this business, I don't think we should be, those arguments aren't persuasive on this narrower question. So I'll oppose the motion on the floor, which is 1A and 2. Thank you.
Councillor Asmundson.
Well, I second this motion just to get something, because we went through both of them and no support, so I put this on there. And there's a lot of issues with this application and transportation and transit and the safety of people. But I can also talk to myself from personal experience that I got hit by a drunk driver that came out of a pub that's in a neighborhood. So people drive to and from. If they're going to drink and drive, they're going to drink and drive. Is the propensity more in this area than somewhere else? Possibly is. But the fact is that there's always been a pub there. It's always served alcohol as a pub in that area for years. This is a difficult one on that fact because it's pre-existing there. And alcohol and driving doesn't mix, and hopefully people understand today not to do that. I've had the sad example of being involved, one in being off work because of it. But this one here, it's a tough one. I second that motion, but I think it should go through because I just don't think there's any way, because we are turning back the clock thing, because we really should have said there never should have been a pub allowed in that location from the first place onward. Because it's the same issue, whether it's 1 o'clock or 11 o'clock, the same issue can happen. I got hit at 10 o'clock at night. It wasn't 2 in the morning.
And I take the exact opposite point of view. The pub's fine there for the 2 drinks after dinner, after work, if you're going to be doing that on the way home. But the decision today is, do we make it? It's currently open till 1 o'clock in the morning. There's still a bus at 1 in the morning. We want to keep it open till 2 in the morning. The nearest bus at 2 in the morning to there is at 6 in the morning. That's not exactly. In fact, you put it in. I just put it in TransLink's trip converter, and they said no. It comes back. There is no way to the Braid station when the pub closes at 2 in the morning. There's no way to get there other than walking along Lougheed. Well, I guess Lougheed would be it's probably got some pedestrian route or something. I don't think it's viable to have this place open till 2 in the morning. Our question isn't about whether it should be there, because it's already there. I don't think it should be there, but that's not the question today. I think we'd have better places to put it. But if we're going to open 1 till 2 in the morning, I'd like it to be on a bus route or near a SkyTrain station or some other form of transportation that can make it so that guy doesn't get behind a wheel and injure someone like Councillor Asmundson. Councillor Reid.
Well, I'm going to concur with what you said, but I happened to be here when we put the pub in. And we had a lot of people approaching us wanting a place to go and have lunch. And at the time, pubs weren't allowed down there, or restaurants weren't even allowed down there. And we took that one parcel and got the pub. That we had an applicant come forward and put the pub in. And it's been quite successful for folks within that area to go and have a cold beer in the summertime when it's really hot. It's an industrial area. I mean, everyone would go for lunch, go for dinner, have a couple of beer after work or something. But when we're getting up till 2 in the morning and people are still hanging out there, it's not making a lot of sense. I'm not opposed to the pub. I'm just opposed to the extension of the liquor hours. And I had something else I know come before us not long ago, and I think it was in the town centre, Your Worship. I can't remember, but it's within the last few months. And the same thing, I don't want pubs open till 2 in the morning when that one happened to be in a residential area with residences right above, which I think is wrong. But this pub served its purpose for what it was doing, and I just don't see any need for it to be open till 2 in the morning. So those are the reasons I'm opposing it.
And I believe the one downtown was Urban Gate. Right.
Oh, was it?
A restaurant. Any further discussion? The motion is not support the application. And all in favor? Opposed? Councillor O'Neill is opposed. Councillor Asmundson, you seconded the motion. You changed your mind? Yep. Okay, that's fine. Okay, Councillor O'Neill is opposed and Councillor Asmundson is opposed. The motion carries. Sorry, I didn't mean.
Item 14 is the Metro Vancouver board and brief. Our 2 representatives are here to respond to any questions that council may have. Otherwise, it's a motion to receive.
Receipt is moved by Councillor Reid, seconded by Councillor Robinson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Your Worship, that's the last formal item on this evening's agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councillor O'Neill, seconded by Councillor Asmundson to adjourn. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. As with our council policy, we'll open the floor to any questions from the audience on tonight's agenda. Are there any questions on tonight's agenda? Any questions on tonight's agenda? Any at all? Seeing none, thank you all for coming.